Alright everyone, it's Matt Mrozik, aka MVGames997, and this will be work in progress number 4 or 5 on the 1/4 scale Punisher. Not sure exactly. So I'm going to do some seam filling here with some milliput, and I've just got super fine. This is the only kind I've ever used. There's a bunch of other kinds, but that's what I use. It's pretty simple. It's a 2-part epoxy. Z Luca uses this all the time for her stuff. It's pretty simple. You take equal parts, mix it together really well, and it's an epoxy putty. Dries, it starts to dry in about an hour, so it's like about an hour of working time. It starts to harden up a little bit, but I'm gonna do some epoxy filling on the zombies, and I also started to do some priming of the other parts. And now I have a question for anyone else who's working on this kit or has dealt with a 3D printed kit. This kit was 3D printed, and because of that, I'm seeing the 3D, I guess, layers is the correct term for that. So it's actually not too bad on his face here. I basically put a lot of primer on these pieces to try to fill it in, but I'm not sure how people handle that. If they go through and they sand it all out or fill it in with primer. It's not too bad there. Let's see, on the arms it's pretty noticeable. Now this primer I have on these parts is Badger Stynal Res. It's pretty prominent here on the arm. Hopefully you can see it in camera. But you can see all the layers of printing. So I either have a lot of sanding to do, or there's a trick to take care of that without having to sand every piece and go in every single nook and cranny. So anyone that has advice, let me know. I put about 3 really heavy coats of Stynal Res on this to try to fill it in. And on some of the other parts, like the body and the legs, I'm actually using my Krylon Max Primer because it has a little more filling power. So I'm hoping that will help. So I don't know, got to deal with that. So anyway, we're going to do some seam filling with zombies here. So here's the first guy. And he's got a seam on the neck and on both arms. So I mixed up a wad of putty here. It's already been mixed up and everything. I got a little bit of water right here. A little jar of water. I always keep that on hand for whatever. And I'm going to get an old brush, something I really don't care about. Something like this. It's just a cheap brush. And we're going to, I've already started to make a little snake. And this is actually, I don't do this a lot, so this is kind of a learning curve for me. So this may not be a tutorial, but you get to watch me on camera and try it out. I watch other people do it, but basically you make a snake. And you just go in here and you fill in the seam. You push it in there really good, and there's a lot on there right now. We'll take a lot of this off, but I just want to get some on there to fill it in, and then we need some water to smooth it out. So this seam's actually not too bad on this one. So I'll get some water on my finger and smooth it out. We don't want to lose any of these details. We got veins and muscles and stuff, so we don't want to lose any of that. So I'm pushing pretty hard in there. And then I've got the brush here to help kind of manipulate it a little bit. I'm not going to do every single seam on camera. I'll probably do one and then that's it, because it's the same concept. But the idea is that you do this and you use the milliput and water, and a lot of guys use Aves. I've never used Aves epoxy. Same kind of concept. And then if you use the water, you smooth it out. You have little to no sanding in the end. But here you see all those lines. That's from the 3D printing. I don't think I'm going to worry about it too much on the zombies, but I'm really worried about it like on the Punisher. Now I don't own any sculpting tools, and at this point I kind of wish I did, because I'd be able to go in here and really, I'm going to try some paper towel. Some damn paper towel. I'd be able to go in here and really kind of push this putty where I want it. You don't want a lot, you want just enough to fill the seam. I think I'm on camera, yeah. There you go. want a nice smooth transition between your any putty working and the part you're working on. That's getting there pretty good. I may have mixed up too much milliput at once. Probably mix up a smaller batch because this, you know, this is not a fast process. This takes a little time. That's pretty good there, I think. I'll really be able to see my seam work once I throw primer on there, see if I need any sanding or anything of the joint, but hopefully it won't. Just being a zombie, it doesn't have to be perfect, I don't think. It's not like a biker babe or a pinup model. These guys are basically rotting away, so it's not perfect. I think it's okay on these guys. And actually, the seam underneath the armpit, I probably won't need any putty. It's really, really good. It's looking good. See, I wish I had some I wish I had some sculpting tools to kind of push this stuff around, but I don't. So I'd like to be able to push this in there. To make do. Oh, I take that back. I do have a few. I don't have a lot. I got this little set that I've used in the past. Here we go. Oh yeah, duh. Just shows you how often I use these tools. I forgot I had them. I think this seam is pretty good. And clean up any excess putty around. There's some excess in here I don't need. Right there. There we go. It's nice when you have the right tool. Don't want to lose this muscle definition here. I'm just dipping this in some water. Help smooth it out a little bit. There we go. This seems actually pretty simple. Okay. Again, just and when you're working with milliput, wear gloves because it's sticky and it kind of gets on everything. You know, if you got wet hands, it's better, but it's putty, so it's pretty sticky. I'm gonna use this brush now with some water just to smooth it out a little bit. So I just had a guy on Facebook send me a message, an instant message, saying that, asking me whatever model kits I don't sell, could he have for free or a really good price? He's like, I hope I'm not insulting you. I'm like, dude, seriously? Yeah, that's pretty damn insulting. And I said, bye-bye. That's rude. I would never ask someone for free model kits. That's just plain stupid. Okay, I think I'm happy with that. I think I am. I'm gonna smooth it out a little bit more with my finger here. The hard one's gonna be the neck. Let's do that one next. And again, I don't think these have to be absolutely pretty, since it's not like a pin-up model. This is a zombie. Yeah, I'm gonna use this. Start off with a smaller piece. Actually, it's still too big for the seam that I have. I think that first one I just did, I had too much, actually too much putty on there, and there's just. There we go. Just want a really thin ribbon of it. Yeah, and this guy that asked me for like free models, I don't even really know him. I mean, I've never really met this guy in person. Crazy. All right, so just gonna push this in there. You want to get it down into that seam, because then it won't crack. If you just kind of put it on the surface and try to fill it, eventually it'll just crack, and you'll have a nice crack in your paint, and that's not fun. So my goal is to get this done up for Wonderfest, but now that I see all the sanding I may have to do, I don't know if I'll get it done. This is a big hit, and if I gotta sand all that 3D printed texture out, man, that could be weeks of sanding. So I'm hoping someone out there has a trick for me to kind of get rid of it. I mean, if it's just a matter of getting like a really good filler primer, let me know what you guys suggest. I mean, I typically use the Krylon Max for, I don't know if it's considered filler primer, but it is nice and thick. And a lot of times I use it as my first rounder primer on resin, because it does do a good job of kind of filling in the pores and getting everything smoothed out initially. It's looking pretty good. Again, I'll try to not make this too long. We're at about 13 minutes. We'll finish up the neck and call this video done, but that's looking pretty good right there. Let's get another little piece and go on the other side. The hard part for me, because I'm not a sculptor, is kind of, if you're going through like a muscle or a detail, is kind of sculpting the detail back into the putty. It's a challenge for me, since it's not really my forte. This nice long ribbon of putty, and we'll work it in. Need some water on my tool. Here we go. Water is your friend when you're working with Merlaub. I think the same goes for Aves. Like I said, I've never used it before, but everyone I see that uses it basically works the same way. I think Aves seems to be maybe a little more malleable, a little more pliable, maybe a little bit easier to work with. But again, I don't know. Like I said, one of the guys that I've followed for years is Z Luca from Calamity, and Merlaub is his like go-to putty for sculpting and stuff. So that's kind of why I use it, just because I've been following him for years, and I own every single one of his models that he's ever released. Whoop, sorry. Trying a different camera angle, trying to overhead this time, which hopefully is working better to show what I'm doing. I really need I need like a camera rig, like a overhead camera mount or something. Cause I record on my phone because the video quality is actually really good on it. It's way better than the little Kodak camera I was using for a couple of years. The Kodak camera was really good until I got a good phone with 1080p video capability or high def. And this is much easier to upload to YouTube. I can just do it right from my phone. I don't have to download it and then, you know, all that stuff. It's direct right up to YouTube. Now we're getting there. Everything's stuff always looks messy and dirty before it looks better. It's like that with anything. When I used to paint cars, man, they got so messy and dirty, and then slowly they came alive and looked good. This is looking pretty good. I'm pretty happy with this, the way this is looking. I wish I had another, let's see, maybe, what else I got? Oh, this tool right here. Yeah, so I need to get up in here and, unfortunately this tool has some stuff on it. Let me see if I can get it off real quick. I got some gunk from the last time I used this tool. So it's not absolutely smooth. So it's just transferring gunk. There we go. 16 minutes. My videos tend to go kind of long. Sorry, I talk a lot. I'm trying to get up under here, underneath the neck here, and smooth it out, and just blend it, bevel, you know, nice smooth transition. That's what the water does. It helps you feather that edge. I just use a paper towel to kind of clean it up and see what I got. I think that's looking pretty good there. Yeah, that should work. You can see I haven't cleaned up the seam. I don't know if you can see, but I haven't cleaned up the mold line on this yet because I knew I was going to come in here and do all sorts of filling and stuff. I figured I'd get the putty on, I'd give it a coat of primer and see, clean up mold lines and stuff. Last little ribbon around the back side. I'll work this in. Yeah, this seam will be good. Again, pushing it into the seam so you don't get cracks later. For the most part, the fit of these parts was really good. Not too big of a gap. I probably could have reduced my putty work a little bit if I would have spent some time kind of sanding and getting it to fit a little bit better, but since the gaps weren't too bad, I kind of figured it was more time cost effective to just kind of not spend a lot of time sanding and trying to get it fit exactly, because you have to kind of decide, is it more time to sand and get them to fit better, or is it, you know, so less time to do that, or less time just to putty the gap that's there. And in this case, I kind of decided that it was less time to putty the gap that was there, so that's why. Here and smooth this out now. trying to stay in the center of the screen, but it's hard sometimes. Okay. Here for the most part, that's pretty good. Let me just clean this up a little bit. I think this neck will be good to go. Where the other? There it is. Almost got just about there, guys. I'll get these filled in tonight, and they'll dry overnight, and I can throw some primer on tomorrow and see how it looks. I think I can tell initially it looks pretty good. Excuse me. Okay. So I'm not going to keep videotaping, but it's the same process. Putty, get it in there really good, kind of feather it out, use lots of water to smooth it out and everything, and then next up we'll reprimer. So thanks for watching. We'll catch you guys next time. Matt Mrozek, aka MVN397, signing out.